right, everyone, welcome back to another, a TR to PR pathway update. And I think some of you have started to see what is happening with this world of TR to PR with respect to with respect to what's happening with getting applications corrected or attempts to correct applications where you've made a mistake. So in this session today, this live session, we're going to talk about the most recent updates we're getting from immigration on what happens when you make mistakes, documents that will be, non-critical, that will allow your application to go forward, and forms and documents that if you're missing them, you are hooped. All right. So I think a lot of you have been watching very, very carefully at the reports that people have been sharing. I know within our group, the TR to PR pathway group, the private Facebook group with those who have taken the course, people are starting to now get feedback from immigration when they've tried to update their files. That is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to dive in and look specifically at the instructions that IRCC has given. And those of you who have gone out of your way to try to submit an IRCC web form, as I indicated and instructed you to do, are now getting pushback because immigration is saying, holy crap, what is happening? All these people are submitting information to update their files. How are we going to handle this? We need to cut this flood off. We need to let people know that certain things we're not going to accept and certain things we will. And basically, if you don't include these things, your application will get rejected. But there's still so many questions, way more questions than answers. And I want to point out right now, with myself, Canadian immigration lawyer, I indicated to immigration right at the beginning, the immigration department, that if they did not give people a reasonable amount of time to be able to submit completed applications, guess what's going to happen? They're going to have a ton of people that are rushing to get applications filed who are going to miss things. And if this is truly a one-time shot, the TR to PR pathway, if it is truly a one-time shot, you guys, and this is me talking to immigration, then be prepared for at least 30% of your applications to be rejected. And how is that fair to you guys? Realistically, how is it fair to you to have an application that you think you meet the requirements to face the reality that you are racing, absolutely racing to get documents uploaded because you don't know how fast this cap is going to fill up. None of you knew. You had no clue how fast immigration was going to, how this 40,000 cap for your international grads, how fast it was going to fill up. And we know how fast it filled up. We saw. If it wasn't for the IRCC payment portal crashing, it would have filled up probably in about 5 hours. That's 40,000 applications. So those who took my course were pretty prepared. But even those who were prepared still made mistakes when you were uploading. And that's why I've done those videos to try to give you as much assistance and help as possible to know how to deal with it. Well, every time I gave assistance, immigration responded. And when I directed all of you guys to start submitting IRCC web forms, I can only imagine what IRCC faced on the other side. So when they're getting overwhelmed because they've realized, oh my goodness, we never anticipated this, then what do? They take whatever steps they can to check that flow of applications going in. And that's what they've done once again. So those of you, and you can even comment here, I want to know, those of you who are tuning in, so we've got people who are saying hello, hold off on your questions right now because I'm going to teach you. I'm going to share insight that will help all of you with TR to PR pathway applications to know, or at least have a better understanding of whether or not you've got a shot or whether you're hooped and maybe it's time to consider actually withdrawing that application. I'm also going to talk today about two other things. One of them is whether or not through what they've done right now and saying, look, if you don't have these things, then your application is not going to go forward. Well, so are they going to open up another international grad stream? Are they going to reopen it? I can tell you myself, I think they are. I think they are because they are still approaching the adjudication of these applications in a very heartless, ruthless way. And when there is a heartless, ruthless way, they're looking to just kick applications back. And remember, who's processing these applications? It's the visitor visa officers. And do you think those visitor visa officers are used to showing compassion and giving you the benefit of the doubt? Heck no. They're looking to refuse as fast as they can so they can move on to the next application. And guys, as much as I didn't like it and as much as I don't want to admit it, that's exactly what you're going to see. And so we are going to see that if you do not have all of the application material that they have specifically asked for, immigration is going to take a cruel and ruthless approach to it. That's how they've done it with all of the applications lately, whether it's family class, express entry, TR to PR, spousals, you name it. Ruthless approach, but it's efficient, it's fast. And if you got your application submitted through the TR to PR pathway in the international graduate stream, you had all of your application materials up front, you guys are going to start seeing approvals right away. It's all about speed. If you've got it there fast, we can process fast. If you don't, we're kicking it back. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you the exact email, but I want to hear how many of you people have received it. So let me know how many people, just post in the comments here, how many people have submitted an IRCC web form and received back an email from immigration telling you, don't call us, don't submit information to us because we're not going to accept it. Post in the comments below. I want to know how many people have received that email. Okay, we've got one here. Supreet did. Alex did. I love it when you guys are interacting with me. Oh my goodness. Okay, I stand corrected. Yep, so we've got a ton. Now everybody's piling in here. Vishvesh did. Wow, yep. We've got Harsh. Lots of people did. I received the email yesterday, Murat. So do you guys see what's happening? Smith says I received it twice. Bargov did. Yep, and Shravan, Gayatri did. There's a ton. Okay, I can see all of you guys. Thank you for letting me know. So obviously you guys are all interested in what does this mean and what is this, well really, what does this email mean and what should I do, right? That's what you're all asking. So what I want to do is I want to flip over right now and let me just shrink a few things down and let's dive right into the email and let's see how this appears on my screen. Oh, it's a big one. So let's see how it works when I flip over and share my screen. Okay, it's not too bad. Now I've redacted the personal information from the kind individual. Like I'll tell you guys something. I don't get these. I don't, because the clients that I've assisted, we did it right. But so I'm so grateful when people share with me these things. So this is what it looks like. And it comes from here. So you can see it's going to come from this email address. And this will flow as a result of the IRCC web form that you submitted. So it says, good day. Oh, so friendly, so welcoming, isn't it? Oh, it looks like I'm still doing this. Let me close this here and see. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to flip back and I'm going to see if I can find the one that I'm going to save this. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm going to cancel that. Just give me 1 second and I'm going to pull up the actual video so that you guys can see what I am referring to. Okay, let's save this again. I was redacting personal information off of the other email so that I respected the confidential nature of it. So let's just resave it here. Bear with me a second, you guys. Thanks for your patience. Okay, I think we're there now. Can I highlight it now? Let's see here. Okay, let's flip over. All right, so we're back and we'll pull it up. Here it is again. Okay, so this is the email that you received. And as you can see here, as we go back to the beginning, this comes from the email address right here, IRCC, CEC, CS, do not reply. That's the email that it's coming from. Okay, so I've highlighted the good day, it's gone, but good day. Thank you for contacting Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. we identify, so right here, we identified that you have sent additional documents to add to, replace one or more documents already submitted in your application under the temporary resident to permanent resident TR pathway. Well, what is this doing right now? You can see, guys, that they have created this specifically because of the massive number of inquiries that they're getting right now as a result of the numerous people that have submitted their applications and have, for whatever reason, created errors in it. So that they've created this special just for this. Now, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to adjust my big old screen here down a little bit so that it's a little bit easier to see. Okay. All right. Now let's keep zooming through here. So please note, and here we go, please note that we do not accept unsolicited documents via the IRCC web form for the TR to PR pathway. The requirement was to submit a complete electronic application in the dedicated online intake portal as indicated in the public policy and in the instruction guide. So let's just click on here, and I'm going to see if I can open this up. I'm not sure if I can. I might have to do a little bit of dancing around. Here is the guide right here, and we know the public policy. So we can actually pull that one up together and look at it. So if you go TR to PR pathway policy, everybody and their favorite friend has been pulling up these repeatedly trying to get information. So if we back this one out, here's the policy. And you guys, we've gone through this in detail and we've looked at past ones. You can see right now that we're still only at 13,000 for the essential workers that are non-healthcare and only 1,800 for the essential workers. So is there room? Is there room to do another draw for these individuals? Yes, there is. That's my position. I think there is room for it. Okay, so then we go to the guide. And once again, I've also done a video on this. So when it comes to gathering your documents and what they need to look like, when it comes to the actual forms that form the essential nature of your application, this guide is the thing that they're relying on more than anything else to determine what's acceptable and what isn't. Okay, let me shrink this back down. Let me pull up this again and let's take a look at it. So public policies, we've looked at that. The instruction guide, we've looked at that. So they're saying, as per what we've already told you, it was a one-shot deal and you can't now come back and update your file. All right. We didn't know that in the beginning. We didn't know to what extent they would allow for that and what extent they wouldn't. So clearly when you go to the web form, and if I pull this back up here on the web form, and this is where individuals in the last few emails, this is what I told you to do. And why did I tell you guys to do this? Because we were going to push immigration as hard as we could to determine exactly what was going to happen with these applications. And the only way to do it was to try to correct. So that's why I told you guys. The moment I saw that they were going to be harsh and they were going to be cruel, well, you're showing good faith by doing your very best to correct a file that's not correct. So this IRC web form right here, and when we went through it, we looked at the list, we looked at the in Canada, the permanent residence applied online, and you'll see here, there is no TR to PR pathway. So in previous videos, I instructed you to go through express entry and indicate, that you wanted it through the TR to PR and that you wanted your file uploaded, the documentation to be uploaded to your matter, to your file so that you could correct it. So that's what I had instructed people. So now immigration is saying, no, we're not going to accept that. Well, great. At least we know. If you had only told us in the beginning, then we would be in a position to know exactly what would work and what wouldn't. But because there was so much uncertainty, because we didn't know what would be accepted and what would, well, you had to do whatever it took, right? And that's why I instructed people to do that. And I'm so grateful that all of you guys did follow that instruction and did do it, because as a result of that, it's now created this. Okay, let's continue down here because now we're getting into what this real video, what this is really about. Okay, while all supporting documentation must be included at the time of application, the processing office, and you can see here, may contact you to request missing or additional documents, non-mandatory at a later date if required. So you can see right here that they're saying, look, there are, yes, some things that are not considered to be mandatory that we will allow you at a later date to fix, correct, or update without your application being returned. Okay, great. And we knew that R10 didn't apply to this. The reality is R10 specifically is an ability for immigration to refuse your application for the slightest reason. But now what this is telling us is that yes, R10 will apply. R10 won't apply, but there are still things that make up a complete application. And understand, you may say, this is so unfair. It is so cruel that immigration is doing it. The courts have repeatedly stated that immigration can do whatever the freak they want. If they can have whatever discretion they want to determine what constitutes a complete application, and ultimately you're at their mercy. So if they say you need something, then you have to have it in there. And if you do not, then it falls once again to this right here where it says that the processing office may contact you. That may is discretionary. They have within themselves the ability to choose whether or not they're actually going to do that. Okay, so let's continue on a little bit further. In such case, the office will provide you with instructions on how to submit these documents using your IRCC secure account. All right, so where are they pushing you to? We'll look at that in a second. Please do not send documentation unless, as you can see here, unless specifically requested by a processing officer. Why did they put that in there? Because of the enormous number of people who are submitting web form updates because of what they forced you guys into. With 1 day to prepare and submit an application, with an incredible race to file, it's not surprising in any way that they're facing this. So this document, this response email that's been sent to you was created specifically to check this volume, this tsunami of people trying to update their file. Okay, now what you guys have all been waiting for. This IRCC secure account, you guys, is your mycic portal. And how do we know that it's your mycic portal? Let me just jump back here and I'll just show you. So if we go here, I know the link will take you to your mycic. So this is your secure account. And once you get your acknowledgement of receipt, and I'd love to hear in the comments below how many of you have got your acknowledgements of receipt, this is where you will go to then link your application. Okay, so you will log in, whether you use GCKey or the sign-in partner, you will log in and then you will link your account. Excuse me, you will link your account to your mycic account. You'll link your application. And then from there, that's where immigration will then, as it says right here, they will give you instructions to upload documents via the IRCC secure account. At least that's what they're saying. Now, personally, I still think it's possible that what they're going to advise you, or the email that they're going to send, or whether or not you link it to your mycic account, you're going to get an email through that mechanism or through some other saying, hey, upload through the web form your supporting documents. I would not be surprised if that's what it is. Okay, we've been delaying this long enough. Let's get into here the most important part of the whole application process. So right here, you guys can see mandatory documents, okay? When it comes to mandatory documents right here, the following documents are considered mandatory for the purpose of this application. Let me drop this down a little bit so you guys can see it a little better. So if one of these documents were not submitted in your online application, your application is likely, this is so painful. This is so painful. Why can't they just say will be refused? Okay. So likely means that even if you don't have information in the way they want it, that there may still be some kind, generous officer out there who agrees to process your application, even if you don't have some of these things. Now, I think the likelihood of them exercising positive discretion is very, very limited. So let's take a look. So these are the things that are non-negotiable. So I'm treating this as a hard stop. I'm treating this likely as it's going to be, will be refused. And I think you should as well. So first, any proof of current employment. Now this individual here is international grad. Okay, so they're not asking for, and this one was for someone who submitted under the international grad category. So if you have submitted it under, say, one of the essential worker streams or the francophone, well, really essential workers, you could very well have other mandatory documents than this. But for the purposes of international grads, this is what you're going to see. So of course, proof of current employment in Canada included in the in the guide 5069. So we can flip right over here and we can just pull up. We'll go to the page. We'll go to the guide 5069. It's this one right here. I'll drop this down so that you guys can see. Right here is the 5069. Okay, that's the one we're looking at right here. All right, let's see how we're doing for view. Okay, so you guys can see this. All right, so you'll see right here in the guide, there's that section that we looked at on education. So if you go to the front, you can see eligibility requirements, gather your documents. So if you go through here, proof of entry, don't care. Proof of employment, don't care. Proof of language, blah, blah. We don't care about that. Work experience, we'll get to that in a second. International grads, okay? Proof of completed study in Canada. So what they're pointing to right here when they say proof of current employment, sorry, actually I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Sorry. So this is proof of current employment. Let's flip back. So current employment for grads. This is interesting, you guys. We'll get to this. So let's go back here. So back to the international stream. So proof of current employment. Here we go. This is fun when I'm doing this live, I'll tell you. I'm all over the map. My brain is going 100 miles an hour. So proof of current employment in Canada, we've talked about this in the past. This is what you must submit. So if this right here is saying that it will be refused if you do not have the proof of current employment included in the 5069 right there, then you can assume that when they say must right here, that this is must. So a copy of your work permit in Canada, if applicable. So remember, some of you international grads may have established your work, your proof of employment based on your study permit. So what do you need to include? Your study permit. All right. Okay, next on the list, the employer reference letter. Now, what I'm really curious about, and this is what they have not said, what if you don't have your annual salary in the letter? What if you don't have your hours of work? Well, I know what happens if you're applying through express entry. Your application gets refused. Why? Because this information is critical to the actual eligibility and the comprehensive ranking system points within express entry, but it doesn't exist for the purposes of the TR to PR pathway, at least for international grads. You just need to submit proof that you are currently employed. So we don't know, but I can tell you, if they're going through here in this email and they're for the mandatory documents right here, if they're stating that you must provide these, then I'm taking this as being conclusive. I'm taking this that your employer reference letter should contain everything in here. I can't assess it any other way than that. It has to have all this information. And if it doesn't, then what do you do? Well, according to the TR to PR instructions here, you are not to upload any information. You're not to provide corrected information until you're told to do it. And so you can see the answers that they're providing here are still not comprehensive. And then what else do we include? You must include your most recent pay stubs. Once again, what does that mean? Does that mean if we don't have our work permit, if we don't have our reference letter with all of that essential information in it, does that then mean that, and also if we don't have the pay slips or the pay stubs, that then the application is going to get returned? I'm not sure if that's the case, but it could very well be. Next on the list, a valid language test. I've told you guys this repeatedly. This is not surprising. It has to be in there. If it's not in there, then your application will get returned 100% of the time. You can't show that you've booked the test later and then try to update. It's not going to work. And then the last one that is really weird. I'll be honest, you guys, this is so strange for me. I just don't understand it. It says that you have to include the completed right here, Schedule 3, temporary resident to permanent resident, pathways stream A and B and international graduates, the IMM 0130. They indicate that that one must be mandatory. So the strange thing that we have here is that they've only pointed for mandatory core documents for everyone, 3 things, okay? Those things are listed here as the 3 mandatory that I can tell you, if you made a mistake on these or you didn't upload them or you didn't include them, then these are deal breakers. So what options do you have? You can pretty much be assumed that your application is going to get rejected. Now there's still this, remember, there's still this right here where it says, if one of these documents were not submitted, it's likely to be refused, which drives me crazy, but I'm treating that as a will be refused. Okay, so what are your options? Well, your options are pretty simple. If there's a significant chance it's going to get refused and you don't want to waste the $500 plus dollars for processing, then maybe that's what you do. And the email actually tells us what to do a little bit later here. Let's continue down. Now we get to the international grads, okay? So if you applied for the international graduate stream, you were also required to submit any form. This is so weird. This is so weird. Do you see how frustrating this is? It opens the door for discretion, but it makes it just like, it's so stressful. You guys, I know, are not sleeping at night because what does it mean? What does it mean? It says one thing in the guide. It says another thing in this email. But look at here. It says right here, you were required to submit any form of proof of completed studies in Canada included in the guide 5069. Well, if we go back to this guide, for those of you who are wondering, and I know many of you submitted your applications, you submitted your application maybe before you got your official transcript, right? Maybe you had a letter from the school confirming graduation. Is it enough? Well, let's scroll down here and let's take a look. So once again, we go down here to the section, proof of completed studies in Canada. And this is why the words are so important, you guys. You need to prove that you have graduated from an eligible institution and earned an eligible credential. Before you apply, check that you can apply based on the graduating requirements for your stream, whatever. So you must provide. Do you see this right here? This is where it's so frustrating. A final transcript and a letter from the institution. So they say that you must provide that. So if I go back here to the instructions and they're saying that if you applied, you were also required to submit any form. So required means that it's mandatory. And if I go back here once again to this to the guide, and that's where I'm at, guys. This is the guide 5069. If I go back here and I can see a final transcript, letter from the institution is mandatory. And then it says you must provide proof that shows, and then these two things need to confirm these things right here. All right. So this is really where it's at. Is this enough? Anytime it says and, it means both of these are a must. If it said an or there, then obviously you could pick and choose. But from this email here, you can say it says you're also required to submit any form of proof of completed studies in Canada included in the guide. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't make any sense. If they put any form here, does that mean that maybe there's something else that they will accept in lieu of this? Does it mean that your ability to prove right here that you've completed studies in Canada, does it mean that you'll be able to submit something alternatively just because of the pandemic and maybe your school wasn't able to issue the final transcript in time? We don't have an answer to that. So what do you do in these circumstances? I think there's a little bit of room there. I personally think that possibly if I was in that situation and if I had provided just the letter, then I'll tell you guys, I'm not going to be quick at that stage. If I just had the letter and didn't have the transcript, I'm not going to be quick to withdraw my application at this stage. Okay. Now we're going to get to that other question. Are they going to open it up again? Are they going to open it up? I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So hang in there. Let's keep going down here and let's dissect this thing further. Okay. So we know that this is the information that needs to be included, and maybe you've got all of it in here. Maybe that's sufficient, right? We just don't know, even though this says you must provide these two. Maybe there's enough wiggle room in here to get away with it. Okay. Then the next portion. If you applied for the workers, and now that I read this, you guys, I've just looked at this one for international grads, but now it's very clear that this instructions that we received, right, that you would have received this email right here, it will apply to everyone. So not just international grads. So now that I'm looking at this closely, I can see that it includes both. So now if you applied for workers in Canada in the healthcare essential and non-healthcare essential worker programs, it says that you're also required to submit any form of proof. And I hate how they use this, any form. Like, what the heck does that mean? Just, you were required to submit proof in accordance with what was in the guide. Why can't they say that? Well, maybe that means that they're opening up some discretion for the officers. Heck, I would love that. That would be wonderful. But it says required is a must. So anytime it says required, like we have right here, that is a must. So required to submit any form of proof of the periods of work experience identified in your application included in the guide. So once again, we go back to the guide to know whether or not you came close or whether you missed the mark. So translation, affidavit, let's see here if we've got the work. So right here, you need to prove that you have the qualified work experience to apply under this pathway before you apply. So if you were hoping to file and then meet the 1 year minimum 1,560 hours after you submitted your application, nope, you are done. Your application will get rejected. So you must provide the following to prove your work experience. Once again, a copy of your work permit in Canada, if applicable. They say copy of work permit because some of you may have been able to meet it with a study permit. If you were studying for 3 or 4 years, maybe the work experience was accumulated over time because of the off-campus work you were doing while you were studying. And you see here, once again, this is all inclusive. The same employer letter that referenced the work for that same period that you're trying to claim. So it looks the same as those proving their current employment, which we've talked about in previous videos. And then look down here, okay? This is the distinction. You must also include copies of your T4 and your notice of assessment if applicable. And here's the difference, or. Whenever they have or like that, you guys, that means that you then have an ability to choose from these options. So next, work contracts or pay stubs. So if you uploaded the reference letter, pay stubs, and your work permit in each of the spots, both for proving employment and for that you're currently employed, as well as the work history, you're going to be just fine. But those are the mandatory components. Okay, so those things right there, you guys, that in that short little period right here, if we can fit it all onto here, I don't know if we can. Okay, probably not. All right, so this section right here, you can see the following documents are mandatory. That's it. That is it. So what does that mean for all of you? It means that if you made minor mistakes or there were simple little errors that you made within the forms. And here's another crazy thing, okay? They've only identified the Schedule 3 as being an issue. So what happens if you screwed up your generic form? What does that mean? Are they going to refuse your application, or are they going to give you a chance to upload it? We don't know. But in those circumstances, unless your mistake falls squarely into one of these areas, and it's a major mistake, then I would not follow the instructions that they're explaining right now, which I will get to. I would not. I would leave your application in. Okay, that is my feeling. And I'll tell you, you're going to leave it in until I let you know. So here's, well, I'll tell you how you know when you should start taking action. Okay, so here we go. Withdrawal of application and refunds. Some of you, if you've made a critical mistake, will realize, wow, I don't want to just throw away the $500 and change. If you guys remember, if we go back to the guide here, let's go up to the top and we'll go up to pay the fees. You will see here that you're paying 2 fees here. You're paying the processing fee, $550, and the right of permanent residence fee, $500. The reality is, if your application is refused for any reason, this will always be returned to you, because that's only payable when you become a permanent resident. So what's at stake is the $550 right here. So that $550, you now have to make a decision. Are you going to, because you've made a mistake that fits into one of these mandatory requirements, that therefore it's better for you just to request to withdraw your application and request a refund? Then that's the process that you're going to follow. You may choose to do that. All right. But if your documents that you have made a mistake do not fit within one of these categories, like we've talked about right here, then you may wish to leave it and to continue forward. All right. let's keep zipping through here and look at what happens now if you do choose to withdraw. So if you wish to withdraw, you'll need to request a refund. Great. We invite you to consult the request a refund section. And this request a refund section, I don't think this is hyperlinked. No, I flattened it out. Okay, so anyways, when you request it, there's this will take you to the link. And I'm going to just flip back here. I'm going to pull up the email, the original email here. Let's see if I can find it. And then I'm going to, if I can pull it up here, there it is. And then I'm going to click on the hyperlink so that I know I'm in the right spot here for you guys. Just give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. So we'll flip back. We'll shrink this one down. Okay, and that link takes you right here. So this page right here is where you go to ask for a refund. Okay, and you just follow the link when you get that notification, and it will take you here. And then you're just going to fill in your information. You're going to indicate what did you apply for. Follow the steps. I wonder if it's here. Let's see. So you applied for immigration. You applied online. How did you pay your fees? I paid directly within the online application. I paid using IRCC's payment service and attached a receipt. That's what you did. How to ask for a refund if you attached a receipt to your online application. Follow these instructions here. How long can it take? 2 to 8 weeks. How to request a refund if you've not been automatically refunded. Okay, so you're going to sign into the account you created with your payment service. Then you're going to go to my receipts here. You'll find your correct receipt. And then you will select get receipt to view it and then request a refund. So it's actually right. And I'm not going to log into my account, but it's you log into the same account where you went to pay the fee, and then you select the receipt, and then you open it up to get the receipt. And then there's going to be an option to request a refund, and you follow that link. So what I may do is do a separate video on that so that you guys can see how that plays out. Okay, so that's how you request it. Now there's some interesting information here that I want to help you guys to understand. So depending on where the application is in the processing stage, you may be eligible to receive some or all of your fee payment back. Well, like I said before, that $550, if you truly feel like your mistake falls within one of these mandatory documents right here, then you may choose at this stage. There's in many circumstances you might consider. Now, I can't tell you guys what to do. If the reality is there's too much involved here for me to tell you to make those decisions on your own. In fact, I would never ever tell you to do that. And this is where I would ring the bell here, and then I would go right here and tell you to go to our website and book a consult, and let's take a look at exactly what your mistake was. And then I can tell you if it makes sense for you to withdraw your application or not. But I'm not telling you guys to do it. If you know now that these are mandatory and you may choose to request a refund. All right. So if the sooner you request it, the more likely you're going to get all $550 back. That's what they're saying here. The initial receipt of your application and sorting of the application does not constitute processing. So what that means is if you haven't even received your acknowledgement of a receipt back yet, then it is highly likely you will get all the $550 back if you request that your application be returned. Okay. If it has not yet been processed, you may be eligible for a refund. If processing has started and you've received an acknowledgement of receipt, you may not be eligible for a refund. So really the AOR date is kind of the one that's important. So why are they sending this email out now with these instructions? Because they are hoping that all of you guys out there will self-select and say, oh, I made a mistake. I'm just going to request a refund and withdraw my application. So then immigration doesn't have to deal with it. So they're sending out this email right here for you guys to self-select and to choose yourself to withdraw your application. Why? Because they have to process it. Even if you've made a mistake, one of these mistakes right here, even if you've made them, they still have to process your application to a refusal. And that takes time, that takes resources. So it's way better to send this out saying, hey, if you've made one of these mistakes, your application's getting rejected. And so do us all a favor and just request that it be withdrawn. All right. So that's how immigration has set this up. Okay, going back here, withdrawal, we've read that. Processing times, they don't have a freaking clue. They have no clue how long it's going to take. Now, like I said, individuals out there understand you guys who were the first ones in could very well see your applications being approved in literally weeks. The acknowledgement of receipt is coming. People are getting landing instructions. Well, not official landing instructions, but they're getting their pre-travel notification letters. And what are those letters? Those letters are basically for people who are outside of Canada to help them prepare to get settled in Canada. Hello, you're all TR to PR in Canada already. So why the heck do they not have a new separate letter that is designed to welcome you to Canada now that you're already here, but as an official permanent resident, and give you tips and strategies on transitioning to those final components of moving from a worker to a permanent resident, because you have to be in Canada in order for it to work. So once again, why would the system be kicking out these pre-arrival service letters, that are not modified to account for the fact that you guys are actually in Canada? Why? Because they just don't have time. So they're just following the same path for every other permanent residence. So don't be confused when you get that letter. And I probably should have pulled one up just to show you guys, but don't be afraid if, wondering what the heck is this? It's a good sign if you have it. It's a good sign because it means that more than likely you have already passed through this section here that is causing so much problem to so many people. And if you made a mistake and it wasn't within the context of one of these, then consider yourself very fortunate, because there's a very good chance that your application will go forward. Now, anything can happen. Officers can refuse, and they can make whatever decisions they want. Now, if they make a decision that is not correct in law or that is unreasonable, then guess what happens? Then I, as Canadian immigration lawyer, that's what I do. I go and I help people to challenge negative decisions. And that's once again why I direct people. I ring the bell and direct people right over here to our website to book a consult with myself or one of the other lawyers in our firm. We can help you with those processes. All right, back once again to, let's see if there's anything more we can glean from this amazing little email here. So withdrawal of the application, processing times, once again, we'll see, but they're going to stretch out for a long time. All right. But the individuals who submitted the fastest, obviously first in when it comes to the cap, first people to get their applications in are going to start to see their applications being approved first, but there's no guarantee of that. So some of you may see other people that filed their application after you. Maybe it was only minutes. Maybe it was 30 minutes after you that are ahead of you in the queue. Don't be alarmed by that. Do not. Because how the files are distributed, the officers that they go to, some officers are faster than others. So don't get worried about that. Don't be stressed. Even if someone filed their application 2 hours after you and your application is you still don't have your AOR. Don't stress over it. That's the reason. Some officers are just faster than others. Okay, now it does tell you here changes to your situation. And look where they direct you to, the IRCC web form. My goodness. Okay, so please contact us again by filling out the IRCC web form if this reply does not address your situation, or if you would like to report important changes about your application, such as birth, death, marriage, divorce, or adoption. Like, my goodness, okay? So they're saying, don't submit at the beginning. They're saying, hey, it looks like you have sent this in. Well, we don't accept unsolicited documents via the web form. My goodness. Okay, but then right down here, it's saying, hey, if you have a change in family composition, then put it in here and upload it to the exact same place that you sent it. Well, hello, there is no TR to PR pathway in there. We've already looked at it. We've gone already to the IRCC web form. Let's see. That's that. Let's see if we can find it. I have to pull it up again, and you guys all know you guys have already submitted it. You've already found it. You know where to locate it, but they're directing you right back here to the same place where they said you need to upload it. So once again, this is a classic example. Let's just pull up, and sorry about this. I know you guys can't see it, but it's this one here, applied online. And then the next drop down is express entry. Well, there is no TR to PR pathway. So it's so frustrating, isn't it? When we're trying to follow their instructions and they're conflicting, but they're scrambling. They are not taking time to really carefully look through these before they send them out. And the instructions are conflicting. But at this stage, if your updates relate to this, then I guess, well, you can submit it to the web form, but I don't know how you're going to do it without, indicating the TR to PR pathway. All right. And then sincerely. Oh, that's so kind. So there you go. There's the French version at the bottom of it. That's the, that's where we're at. So what do we do? What are the takeaways from this? So the takeaways are, let's say you forgot a postal code in your additional family information form. Heck, based on that, what if you uploaded the wrong document into the additional family form? What if you didn't submit a validated generic form? And for those of you who are just watching, wondering what the heck's going on, or just curious about this, if you go back to the guide and then we scroll up here, you will see that we will get to the forms. And when we get to the forms right here, the only form that they indicate appears to be mandatory is the schedule 3 right here. So if you have problems or mistakes within this within these other forms here, or some of the other supplemental information here, well, it's entirely possible that immigration may be willing to overlook that. We don't know. So in those circumstances, don't request to withdraw your application yet. What do? You guys are going to wait. You're going to wait. And we know that you can't submit 2 applications in the same stream. But if they open it up again and you've got serious flaws, some of you who are lightning fast typers may consider to withdraw, get your refund, and take a chance when they notify everybody, and I'm sure hoping this is going to be the case, when they notify everybody that they're going to open up the stream for international graduates again. So you guys saw when we went in here, let's see if we can find it right here. You can see that this sucker, if we could see it, it doesn't show, but it filled up within a day. So there is a very good chance that they will open this up. When they're trying to get, I think they said 40,000 applications are what they're targeting. They're hoping to be able to process by the end of this year. At least that's processed. I'm not talking about the total because there's 90,000 here. But in the standing committee report that the officer gave to the Standing Committee on Immigration, I watched the evidence that they gave. The officer indicated, I think it was between, well, it was right around 40 to 45,000 applications they're hoping to process. Well, if there is a ton of people within this category that have mistakes and errors, and they're going to be cruel and ruthless, then there's a very, very strong indication that they will open this up again. That is my opinion only. It's not in any way reflective of a conversation I've had with an immigration officer, with the minister in my meetings with him. Never once has he said that. It's things they're looking into. But look at it. Do the math. So we've got 40,000 here, and we only have 13,000 here and 1812 here. As of today, like there's still 17,000 here, and there's still 18,000 more there. Like, what is that? 35,000? Like there's a ton that still are not even submitting applications yet. And it may very well be that these caps don't fill up. So if they've allocated this much room, then they're going to have to do something about it. All right. So for those of you who have not committed a fatal flaw, you may want to just sit and wait. Those of you who have committed a fatal flaw, at least according to the email, you want to now make decisions and consider whether or not you feel it makes sense to withdraw and get your $550 back before you get your AOR, or whether you're going to just see if those discretionary language, that may or likely language that they have in there likely be refused, whether there's going to be some crazy possibility that they allow you to go through even though your schedule 3 was deficient, right? So that's basically where we're at right now. And I know it took a lot of time to get through that, and it was a lot longer than I anticipated, but there is so much to unpack from that. And there's so much that we just don't know, right? We don't know. There's no mention about language tests. Not language tests. There's no mention about medicals or police certificates other than what was in the guide. So that's kind of where we're at. All right, you guys, I know you've got some. I'm going to open up a little bit of time. I'm going to let you guys in on something. Guess what today is? Today is my 26th anniversary, and I'm taking my wife and we're going to go out. And it is right now, what time is it? It is 4:55. So I'm going to open this up for a few more questions, but I promise I will revisit this. I will come back and we'll do another live, but I wanted to get this out because finally the emails and the instructions, they're being dripped out. Once again, drip, 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 drip. And it's so crazy infuriating because we're doing the best we can with the information we have. They could come out tomorrow with a new directive. This is just an email. It's not the law. It's not policy. Understand, this is just an email instructing people what to do. How binding that email is, we don't even know. We've never tried to challenge it in federal court, right? So at this stage, that's where we're at. So I will now, starting now, I will now start to answer a few questions, and I'm just going to, because I covered so much at a high level, and I know I answered a lot of your questions. I know a lot of you have specific things that you need. If based on this information, you are in a rough spot and you're really struggling, you don't know what to do, then please go over here, book a consult with myself or one of my lawyers, and you guys can get information that you can actually rely on that relates specifically to you. Otherwise, we're just talking about high level stuff. So we'll start getting back to the questions. And thank you, Venetia. And Fate says happy anniversary. All of you guys, thank you so much for all of the happy anniversary wishes. I really appreciate that. Can you imagine that? 26 years. Last year on our 25th, we were set to get on an airplane on March the 18th, 2020 to fly to Egypt, visit the pyramids, visit Giza, visit the Luxor, you know, and then go to Jordan, go to Petra, and then to Israel, and to literally walk the hills where Jesus walked. Like, that's what my wife and I were looking forward to doing on our 25th anniversary. And as we all know, the world shifted. But not only are we going to reschedule that when everything opens up, but I'm going to do a world tour, and I'm going to come see you guys all over the world. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so thank you so much for everybody that has indicated happy anniversary. Remember to put a question at the begin, and let's see what we've got here. Okay, and I'll do the best that I can to answer as many questions in the next 10 minutes or so. All right, how do you fix a missing visa refusal on TR to PR pathway if they would not accept web form? Does it mean it is better to withdraw it? Anuj, I can't answer that. You know, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is they're not going to be looking at the minutia. Okay, and this is something I want you to understand. They're going to be looking when they're determining to issue the acknowledgements of receipt, the AORs. Like, we haven't had anyone that's had their application refused yet. Please comment below if you have had an application actually refused, but we haven't had any refused. People are getting acknowledgements of receipt, even though there were little mistakes. So things like that, Anuj, are very, very serious. So what's going to happen? They're not going to be going into that level of detail before they issue an acknowledgement of receipt. So if you forgot to indicate a visa refusal in your background declaration form, the Schedule A, then what you're going to do, the 5669, you are going to wait till you get your acknowledgement of receipt. And then once you've linked it to your portal, then you are going to submit a web form anyways. You're going to submit it and request, you're going to indicate to immigration that you made a mistake, and you're going to submit that web form anyways. So understand, I don't care if it's solicited or unsolicited, you're going to do everything in your power to correct that. The alternative, Anush, the alternative is to withdraw your application. And that's something I cannot and will not advise you. I'm going to ring that bell every time. Decisions as to whether or not you withdraw or move forward, those really need a consultation, my friend. So at this stage, when it comes to where you're at and what you need to do, if you really are counting on this and you need to go forward, then I don't care what immigration says. I'm going to do everything in my power to correct that mistake in the form. It doesn't have anything to do with the acknowledgement of receipt or an application being complete. And so just like Express Entry, where they say, don't submit anything to us, because remember, when Express Entry was started, they said the same thing. There's going to be no opportunity for you to upload any information. Well, of course there is. So the same thing will happen eventually with the TR to PR pathway once they get things sorted out. And They've indicated, that you need to provide information if you are changing the composition of your family. So if they're doing that, how in the world are they going to block out any other ones, but they allow those to get through? Well, if you plan on continuing with your application, Anuj, and disclosing that through a web form, I would strongly encourage you to do that regardless. And then if the time comes to go to federal court and say, look, I recognize the mistake, it was an omission, and I did everything in my power to correct it, but immigration wouldn't accept it. Well, I think you've got a pretty good argument to say that it was a mistake that you tried to fix before they even noticed it. That's what you're doing. You're protecting yourself in case you have to go to federal court. And whether immigration says we're not going to accept it or not, well, so be it. That is their prerogative. That is their prerogative. But you, and if you watch the previous live video that I did with Richard Curlin, the consequences of a negative decision in immigration can affect not only you, but your family, even possibly for generations if it proceeds the way immigration expects it to, at least for Canada and other countries. Okay, and I know there are 1,000 questions coming out here, and guys, I'm not going to be able to get to all of them today because it is my anniversary, and I can't stay longer than, I'm going to stay till 5:10, which is about 9 minutes longer. Okay, Singh says, payslip missing date when printed. I'm not worried about that. You can fix that one. Those minor things, I'm not concerned about those ones, you guys. Okay. Okay, some of my employers did not provide any reference letter, but I have ROE and pay slips. What shall I do to prove my working hours and not code? Without the letters, Mohith, I think you're in real tough shape. I think immigration is going to want to see that letter. And if it's not there, I think there's a very significant chance that they're going to refuse. It's one of the mandatory documents. And now we know those are going to be an absolute must. Okay. Okay, so Santosh submitted all the documents correct as you shown in the email. Only documents which are missing is pay stubs. What do you recommend? Well, same thing, right? We don't know how critical that's going to be. There's a reference to the guide, and the guide says pay slips or pay stubs are required to prove current employment. So we don't know. At this stage, there's not much that you can do, Santosh, other than what you've probably already done, which is tried to upload the pay slips. If you don't have them, then it's pretty simple. Immigration stipulates what's mandatory and what's required. And if you don't have them, I can guarantee for international graduates that there are probably 40,000 other people that would be more than happy to submit new applications to replace all of you who've submitted applications in that first cohort. So understand, immigration, when they have lots of people to pick and choose from, they don't have to show any mercy. And they have made that abundantly clear right now. Okay, let's see what else we have here. One thing I will jump over, as always, you guys, and just let you know, the Canadian Immigration Institute is always the thing that's sponsoring all of this. So the Canadian Immigration Institute is where all the courses are. It's where all the material is. And if you go down here and you click on see all courses, you can see that the TR to PR pathway, those of you who may have to go back in again and are thinking, gee, I probably should get a little bit more direction and guidance, you can access this course right now at 50% off. And you can get in there right now. And I do jump in from time to time still to answer questions. And I will do another one probably next week within the group. All right. Then you can see here, the Express Entry course. I want to just give a quick shout out to all of the people. And isn't it crazy? Once again, we had another draw just today on my anniversary, was the second lowest ever, 368. So cool. On my anniversary, June 10th, there were 6,000 people. And I think what I said was, if there was a 6,000 draw, that it could go down even as low as 355. So it didn't quite hit the 355 to 365. The 355 level that I talked about, but it did get down to 368. So congratulations to all of you out there who were given an ITA under this draw. And so back to the course material, you can click right here, 1 week from Monday. So not this Monday, but the next Monday. What day is that? I think is it the 21st maybe? Let me just pull it up here quick. Yes, Monday the 21st is when the next Express Entry step-by-step course will happen. So you can go in right here and reserve your spot now. and then I will notify you as soon as the cart's open, which it'll probably open up tomorrow. So those of you who are going through express entry, and then we have a couple other things percolating in the background, you guys. I am just about finished recording the videos for our PR card renewal. And then and the LOIA is already there, and then spousal sponsorship, that is also coming soon. So you can click to get notified there. Okay. Had to give a shout out to the sponsor. And how is that the sponsor when I'm the one who runs it? Because it's from the revenues from the course that allows me to do these lives for all of you. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Okay. Okay, so we've covered pay slips. Let's see what's next here. Okay, and we've got a bunch of people already that are posting that they forgot to indicate prior visa refusals. All right, let's see here. Okay, so this one, Candace says, happy anniversary. Thanks, Candace. What can I do if I paid the wrong amount of total, like 500 instead of 1135? Can I withdraw it and send the new form? That's another issue, right? Because the processing fee is a critical component to the application. Now, they haven't said that as being a mandatory component, but if you paid the wrong fee, it's possible that they could refuse the application. When you go into the actual guide, I think you guys saw already that the fee that we're looking at, and this is the tricky part, right? The fee that you guys are paying is $1,050 plus the $85 for biometrics if it's applicable. So in your case here, if you paid the wrong fee, well, all you can do is wait for your acknowledgement of receipt and then try to upload it if there is a spot in the web form. Try to still upload it regardless and try to correct that. But there's not a lot of room that they're giving for people to fix mistakes. And that goes for everybody who's asking similar questions. Signature, don't care, Karen. Do not care about signatures. They've told us repeatedly that if you uploaded a form without a signature, it's not fatal. And I will go to federal court with you to challenge that if they do refuse, because they told us repeatedly that they wouldn't. Okay. Okay, here's another example. So Sukhpreet says, I made a mistake on the Schedule C. I flipped the number of hours worked between job A and job B. The additional page added to has the correct information. Once again, I think there's going to be a little bit more discretion in the context of little mistakes on the forms themselves versus not including the form at all. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to update that and to correct those typographical errors. That is my belief. Camilla says, I didn't receive my submission confirmation email. The email is correct. Should I be worried about it? Yeah. Like, when you submit your application to basically the acknowledgement of receipt is what we're looking at here. Okay. So that acknowledgement of receipt is the thing that comes back by email. When you register for the TR to PR pathway, you get the email saying, here's how you log in. But what you're looking for is acknowledgement of receipt, Camilla. And the reality is at this stage, you have to just wait because it's going to come in the form of an email. And that's your confirmation that they have received it. That's what we're talking about, Camilla. Okay, lots of happy anniversaries. Thanks so much, you guys. And we are just about out of time. Okay, thanks so much, guys. Let's see here if we can get another good question. And I know what your questions are. A lot of the questions are right in the same spot where it says, hey, I made this mistake. What's going to happen? Like I said, just to give you an overview once again, because I'm not going to be able to get to all your questions. If your mistake relates to one of those mandatory documents that they've identified, specifically in the email, then there is a very, very strong likelihood your application will be refused. If your mistake, relates to something else, or maybe a little bit of information in the forms, it doesn't look like they're going to crucify you with that. So that's basically where we're at. All right, guys. Well, I'm sorry to cut this short. I know it took a little bit longer to get through and explain everything, but I know by taking the time to explain it, then it basically has the ability to answer many questions in advance before you guys even ask them, essentially. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to enjoy a nice evening and tomorrow with my wife. but I will definitely come back and do another live Q&A just about the TR to PR. And as information comes out, I want to thank people for sharing it. And if you have any updates, if you have any information related to the process, I have my one client that I represented through, and he's not yet received his acknowledgement of receipt. But if you have any correspondence that you received from immigration related to the TR to PR pathway, what I want you to do is to send an email to info@healthylaw.com. And so if we flip over here, I'll change my screen, and then you can go right here. And actually, I think it's at the bottom of every page. Let's see if it is here. Down at the bottom. Yes. Send an email right here to info@healthylaw.com and just share your correspondence. You can redact it or whatever when you send it to me, but it'll be so helpful because then we can talk about it together and we can learn collectively as a group. So I have one client and I'm relying on all of you guys to share what is happening on the ground. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking around. It's been an awesome live session once again. And I want to wish all of you guys all the best. Hopefully this relieves some of your concerns. And for others, at least it gives you an answer to know what the consequences are. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. And take care. And we will see you again soon. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call TR to PR pathway. See you later.